Hi there. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at how we can use and also identify the four main compositions in art. And you're going to set yourself a target to try and make sure that you achieve meeting, developing and exceeding. Okay, so first of all, make sure that you've written your learning intention at the top and your individual target. You've put it in bubbles or you've highlighted it or you've written in a different colour. Right, so that way you know what you're aiming for in the lesson today. What I'd then like you to do, guys, I'll give you a viewfinder. I'd like you to draw 4 boxes, okay, on your page. Leave enough space. You could do this now. Leave enough space so that you can do some writing around the edge, or maybe we can even start decorating the page to present it nicely. Okay, once you've done that, I would like you to write the 4 main compositions at the top or below, whichever you fancy, all right, of the boxes. So I'll write mine at the top. So the first one is a symmetrical balance. Make sure you're spelling these right, please. The second one is symmetrical balance. Then we have radial balance. And we have the golden spot. Okay, leave that there for you so you can check your spelling and make sure that you get the 4 compositions done at the top. So I'll give you a second. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a go at practicing working with these 4 compositions. So you're going to look at Roy Lichtenstein's work. So I'll have given you all a handout. If I haven't, I'll do it now. Okay, and you're going to use the patterns from Roy Lichtenstein's work in order to create these balances. Okay, so remember, asymmetrical is where there is more information on one side than the other. So I'm going to have a little look at Roy Lichtenstein's work. Have a look at my target, use layering and overlap shapes to further enhance composition. So therefore, if I draw a line down the middle there, okay, I could just start off, okay, by drawing solid lines. Right, I could draw those solid lines on one side, so straight away I've got an asymmetrical balance. Now what I could do is this on this side, because Roy Lichtenstein uses quite a lot of dots, I'll put Ben-Day dots. And I still have more information on one side than I have on the other. However, looking at my target, it says use layering and overlapped shapes to further enhance composition. So therefore, I need to layer my shapes a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at Roy Lichtenstein's work, and I am going to put some diagonal lines on this side, but this time I'm going to put my lines on so that they are thicker rather than just single lines. Now, in order to try and get my overlapped shapes and a bit more layering, I'm also going to take that line all the way over to that side there. Okay. I have an asymmetrical balance. I have layered my work, and I'll show you how to layer it again in a second, but I've also overlapped shapes. I've layered it because I've got a thick line on top of a thin line, and I've got my line over the top of the circles here. So get my biro. If you have a normal felt tip, go for it. What I'm now going to do is just shade in, using the biro, these lines. Now I'm going to go over these Ben-Day dots now. And what I want you to do is, rather than draw solid lines with your pencils, I would really appreciate it if you would sketch your lines. The only reason why I drew solid lines was so that you could see my work from the board. If I use light lines, you can't always see it. If you haven't already started working, you can start working alongside of me. Try not to copy what I'm doing. If you feel safe to and you want to copy it this time, okay, try and change something, at least something. Maybe you could draw the clock from Roy Lichtenstein, or one of his paintbrushes on one side. Okay. What I'm also going to do is go around the edge. You can use a ruler for this. That way it finishes off the composition nicely. Okay. What I'm going to do is also get a rubber, because I'm going to add some colour into this composition shortly, and I want to make sure that I don't have any pencil left on that page. Otherwise, when I colour that in or add any colour, the graphite from the pencil will come through onto the into the pencil, and it won't look very tidy. Okay, so for now I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, but with the pen. But what I would like you to start to do is, if you don't have colours, don't worry, but we're now going to use layering, okay, by pressing on harder with our pencils or our pencil crayons on some of these shapes, and then lighter on others. Okay, so definitely going to add a little bit of shading in here. Remember that one side has to have more information than the other. So I'm not going to add much shading to this side at all. Or if I do, I might use a lighter colour with a pencil, for example. Right, so you can see with my shading how I'm adding in different layers. I'm going to take some of this shading over onto this side, but I'm going to press quite a lot lighter because I don't want it to get too chaotic on that other side. Okay, so you can start adding in pencil shading in order to add those extra layers into your overlap shapes to get exceeding. Okay. I'll now get cracking with Symmetrical. Now what I'd want you to do with Symmetrical is I want you to completely avoid mirror image. I don't want any mirrored images at all. If you put a circle on this side, I don't want a circle on this side. Maybe you can do lines. What I want you to have a go at is trying to get the same amount of information on one side as the other, rather than thinking about the exact same shapes. Okay, I'll demonstrate for you now. So put my line down the middle again. Okay, take some shapes from Roy Lichtenstein's work. So this time I've got to draw the blanket in the background. Make sure you use pencil. So this side here, I've got some lines that kind of represent the blanket in the background of the paint pot picture. I'm not going to do a complete mirror image here. Instead, what I'm going to do is make sure that I have the same amount of information, just a little bit different. Okay. I'm going to go straight in with my black pen this time because I'm going to put dots in the gaps. I'll draw my lines in first. Remember on this one that you're not to copy me. Don't copy exactly what I do. Try and come up with your own ideas, but use my demonstration as inspiration. To help make this go quicker, I'm going to do my dots because dots take quite a long time when they're small. I'm going to do these using a whiteboard pen. And you see I'm doing it quite controlled, nice and slow. Remember, I needed to do layering and overlapped shapes. So I've got my overlapped shapes here. That's the top layer, and then this one goes underneath. Okay, and to add into it a little bit more, I'm going to do some thicker lines on some of the shapes. That way I've got a few more layers in there because it looks like it creates shadows. Right, so now remember I need to add in my layering. So I'm going to do a bit of shading in the background, and remember you can do this with other colours in the style of Roy Lichtenstein. So I need to add a little bit of shading into this section here, otherwise I'm worried it'll then not have a symmetrical balance. So it needs to have the same information pretty much on one side as the other. So I should be able to divide it, put a line down the middle there, and I should be able to see a similar amount of information. I'm happy with that. So we move on to radial balance. This is where everything explodes from the center. Okay, so we start in the center, and to use my imagination a little bit more, okay, instead of drawing a circle, all right, we could do a circle because Roy Lichtenstein uses circles in his Ben-Day dots, but for me personally, I am going to use a solid line in the style of Roy Lichtenstein. That's one layer there. And remember, I need to overlap my shapes a little bit more. So knowing that Roy Lichtenstein does lines, and he does them diagonal as well as vertical, okay, I'm going to draw a line, a diagonal line, all the way across the middle, making sure it looks like it's coming from the center still, okay, and I will add later on, make some dots here. If you look at some of his work, he's got dots really close together and they fade out. So I'm going to do that shortly. Okay, so these lines over the top, and we'll do those in thicker, at least 2 of them. Okay, and now I'm going to do my dots again. You can use your whiteboard pen, okay, or you could do, use a coloured pen. And I'm just going to do little dots here, and as I move away, I'm going to take the pressure off. I'm also going to spread the dots a bit further apart. So it adds a bit of tone. I'm going to do it on the other side as well. Just to try and make it look like it's almost kind of spinning around if you want. Okay, and here, I don't want them to go too crazy, so I'm going to get them a bit even further away. And the same here. Not so it takes over the whole background. Okay, and there you've got everything exploding from the centre. And I've got layering because I've put things over the top, and I've also got overlapped imagery. And the reason why I've got layering is because I've got a thin line, a thick line, I've got these close dots together, and I got the dots further apart, and that is what helps with your layering. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of shading in to get even more layering in, because you can also layer with different materials too. Again, I don't want to go too dark, so it takes over the image. Okay, and the last one, the golden spot. So this is where we need to divide our rectangles into 4. And remember, it's the top right hand corner where your eyes go to. So we either need to put all of our information in here, or we need to maybe leave very little information in here, and let's try and make the eyes bounce around a little bit. Okay, so I am going to have a go at putting very little information on this side here, and I'm going to try and make it bounce around in a spiral kind of format. Okay, so first of all, I think I'm going to use a line from Roy Lichtenstein's work. That is going to act as a barrier, so it's going to stop my eyes from bouncing off this side here. Okay, I'm going to use another line here, so I'm almost kind of, maybe at this point, using the radial balance a little bit to help guide the eyes around. Good. Remember, I need to layer my work as well. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. So I've got some big dots overlapping over these shapes here. I've got a line there, I've got this line, I've got some Bend-Aid dots overlapping over here. So I'm meeting my overlapping element. I just now need to layer. So I need some thick lines. Okay, and I can put a few more dots in to direct attention. So I'm adding different layers because I'm doing some big dots and some little dots. And I'm also going to add in a little bit of shading just to try and keep the eyes in, so it's directing into that top right hand corner. Okay, so now my eyes, I can put a little bit in here as well because it's a little bit odd being so bland, being so white. So with the eyes directed to this top right hand corner where I've put very little, and it bounces around, it comes to this line, moves down, then comes back up and spirals around. Okay. Have a go at doing all four. Well done.